In 2010, a man named Rick Grimes woke up alone in a hospital bed, walked out into a world he no longer recognized, and spent the next decade being the reason humanity had any chance of surviving at all. But there is one question the show never answered, one timeline it never explored, one version of events so dark that the writers refused to go there. What happens to every single person Rick Grimes ever saved if he never opens his eyes? The answer is not what you think. Rick does not wake up on his own. That needs to be established immediately because it changes everything that follows. He is shot in the chest during a routine call. His partner Shane Walsh rushes him to the hospital, running red lights the whole way, one hand pressed hard against Rick's shoulder as if pressure alone could hold the situation together. The doctors get him stable, but just barely. He slips into a coma, and then the world ends around him while he is unconscious and on a ventilator in a county hospital in Georgia with nobody left to protect him. The power goes out within days. We know this because we see it happen in the show. The generators fail. The staff abandons the building, their footsteps echoing down linoleum corridors already starting to smell wrong. And a small group of nurses and soldiers make a brutal calculation. The comatose patients cannot be moved, cannot be saved, and cannot be allowed to turn inside the building. Some of them are killed where they lie. Rick is not, because one soldier cannot bring himself to shoot a man who still has a pulse. He stands in the doorway for a long moment, listening to the ventilator, watching Rick's chest rise and fall with mechanical patience. Then he barricades the door with a gurney and a food cart and he walks away. That moment, that single act of hesitation, is the only reason Rick Grimes is still breathing when the credits roll on the pilot episode. Now remove that hesitation. Now the soldier does what he was ordered to do. Now Rick Grimes is dead in that hospital bed before the world even knows what it has lost. Follow the consequences. They are catastrophic and they move fast. Shane Walsh does not know Rick is dead. Shane has already left the hospital. He has already told Laurie that Rick did not make it because he believed it, because the hospital was falling and there was no way Rick was surviving what was coming. Shane takes Laurie and Carl and he drives them toward Atlanta, toward the rumored refugee camps, toward what everyone is being told is safety. The highway is clogged with abandoned cars. Carl sits in the backseat and does not speak. Laurie stares through the windshield at nothing. And here is where the first major fracture appears, the one that reshapes everything. Shane Walsh without Rick Grimes is not a man fighting his own worst instincts. He is a man with no instincts left to fight. In the show, Shane spirals because Rick comes back. The guilt of loving his best friend's wife, the rage of being replaced as Carl's father figure, the constant friction of two men with completely different philosophies trying to lead the same group. That friction is what keeps Shane from becoming something irredeemable for as long as he does. Rick is the mirror Shane cannot stop looking into. Without that mirror, Shane does not spiral slowly. He arrives at the destination immediately. By the time Shane gets Laurie and Carl to the survivor camp outside Atlanta, he is already operating as if they belong to him, not protecting them, owning them. There is no guilt about it because there is no betrayal. Rick is dead. Shane saved them. In his mind, that transaction is complete. And the other survivors at the camp, Morales, Andrea, Amy, Dale, Glenn, they have no reason to question it. They see a capable man who kept two people alive. They follow him. Glenn Rhee is still making supply runs into Atlanta at this point. He is fast, he is smart, and without Rick showing up in that tank and blowing every escape route available, Glenn's system actually works longer. But it also means nobody goes looking for Merle Dixon. Merle is still handcuffed to that roof when the herd comes through. No Rick means no rescue mission. No rescue mission means Merle Dixon dies alone on a rooftop in Atlanta, and Darrell Dixon finds out about it at camp. Darrell finding out that the group left his brother to die and did nothing. That is not a moment that ends with Darrell staying. In the show, Rick's leadership and Rick's direct involvement in trying to save Merle is what keeps Darrell tethered to the group long enough to become someone worth saving. Without Rick, Darrell hears that his brother is dead and that Shane Walsh made the call to leave him, and there is a long silence around the campfire before Darrell speaks. When he does, his voice is flat and quiet in a way that is worse than shouting. Then Darrell Dixon takes his crossbow and he walks into the woods and he does not come back. That is two people gone before the group ever reaches Herschel's farm. The farm changes everything when they reach it, and it changes fast. Herschel Green tolerates the group's presence because of Rick. specifically because Rick appeals to him, reasons with him, treats him like a man whose home and values deserve respect. Shane treats Herschel like an obstacle. We see this in the show even with Rick present. Shane nearly destroys the alliance within days. Without Rick as a buffer, Herschel orders them off his property before the winter. The group has no shelter, dwindling supplies, and a leader who responds to every problem by escalating it. Carol Pelletier is still with Ed at this point. Ed is still alive. Ed is dangerous in the specific way that small, cruel men become dangerous when there is no authority they fear. Rick was never a perfect protector, but he was a sheriff's deputy with a gun and a willingness to step between Ed and Carol when it mattered. Shane has no interest in Carol's situation. To Shane, that is a domestic problem that is none of his business. Ed does not survive the show's first season when Rick's group is involved. In this timeline, Ed survives indefinitely. And Sophia, Carol's daughter Sophia. In the show, Sophia dies because of a chain of decisions that spiral from a Walker encounter on the highway. But in this timeline, the group is less organized, moving faster, making worse calls under Shane's leadership. And when Sophia disappears into those woods outside the farm, the silence that follows is different. There is no systematic search, no grid pattern walked out across the Georgia tree line, no Darryl riding horseback through creek beds at dawn. Shane makes the pragmatic call within 48 hours. They cannot afford the time. They move on. Carol is still with Ed. Sophia is gone. Darryl is gone, and the group is heading into winter without walls, without a plan, and without anyone who has thought further ahead than the next 24 hours. The prison never happens. Without Rick's relentless drive to find a permanent safe location to build something rather than just survive, the group never takes the prison. The prison requires an assault, a coordinated clearing of cell blocks, sustained effort across multiple days. Shane does not think that way. Shane finds a sporting goods store, pulls the grate down, and calls it good enough. He sleeps well that night. That is the most damning detail of all. The governor has no one to fight. Woodbury expands. The governor's people sweep through the region and they absorb or destroy every small group they encounter. Within 18 months, the governor controls a 40-mile radius around Woodbury and he is not stopping. Terminus still exists. The people who built it started with good intentions and were destroyed by what was done to them inside those walls. That happens independently of Rick. And without Rick's group warning anyone, without the prison survivors spreading across the region and building connections, Terminus becomes a processing facility that operates for years. Negan and the Saviors emerge from the D.C. corridor as they do in the comics regardless of Rick's actions. They expand south. They find the governor's remnants, and they destroy Woodbury completely in a territorial war that lasts 3 weeks. There is no Alexandria. The people who built Alexandria needed protection they were not getting. Without a group like Rick's to absorb them and defend them, Alexandria falls to the first serious threat it encounters, which arrives in the form of the Saviors around the same time the show's timeline reaches its 4th season. Maggie and Glenn never find each other. The Hilltop Colony never becomes a military power. The kingdom under Ezekiel functions as a tribute state for the Saviors indefinitely because there is no Rick Grimes to convince Ezekiel that fighting back is survivable. The war with the Saviors never happens because the war with the Saviors requires one specific ingredient that is not available in this timeline. It requires someone willing to win the war and then refuse to execute the man who started it. Rick Grimes spares Negan not because he is weak, but because he believes the world after the war has to be built on something other than pure retaliation. Without Rick, no one has that argument. No one even thinks to make it. Negan either wins everything or dies in a war that leaves both sides gutted and no civilization standing on either end of it. The world of The Walking Dead without Rick Grimes does not become a harder version of what we watched. It becomes a world that never gets off the floor. And here is the detail that should stay with you. In the hospital, in that dim room where the ventilator breathed for a man the world had already written off, the door the soldier barricaded before walking away held for 11 days. 11 days of walkers piling against it in the dark hallway outside, their weight growing slowly, steadily, like water behind a dam. The food cart shifted an inch at a time against the linoleum. The gurney held longer than it had any right to. When the door finally gave, the first walker through was wearing scrubs. It was one of the nurses who had stayed behind to the end.